Hey, what's up, everyone? Today is a special episode of Dad Casual where we finally sit down to give our unfiltered, raw, out-of-pocket, unhinged, a little unhinged, trigger warning, spoiler-filled review of God of War Ragnarok. We've finished the game and are excited to talk about everything. But like we said, if you don't want the game spoiled, this might not be the episode for you. We still want you at Dad Casual, but just not at this time for this specific episode. But please come back, listen to it later when you finish the game, because if there's one spoiler-free thing that we both agree on is that it is 100% worth playing and was an incredible game. And if you do want some spoiler-free thoughts, we also have another episode of the podcast where we give our thoughts without going into too much detail. But that's not what we're doing now. So last warning, this is your chance to bail off before we spoil anything that you don't want to hear in the game. All right, here we go. So we're missing Preston today, but we still have Houston.
My favorite part of the game was when Darth Vader dies.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. And I'm Andy Bonds. When Darth Vader dies, I like that you didn't say he was the biggest twist of Star Wars was that he was his father. But
no, he died.
I mean, you don't know that. Whoa.
Conspiracy theory over here. Mm-hmm. Star Wars isn't finished.
Mm-hmm. Even though there were 3 other movies and they didn't include him, but whatever.
So what's up, dude?
Oh man, I'm really excited to talk about it. I think this was kind of been a weird. I know we've had some not on schedule postings of Dad Casual lately, and we've kind of had some issues. And Preston's not here today, and so we just thought this was a good chance to do
just to nerd out over this one thing.
Yeah, man, it's hard. It's so hard to. Obviously, we're 18 episodes in. 19. This is our 19th. It's crazy to think that because we've never done this before, and so that first time you have to review a game and really not spoil it, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, and I mean, spilling the beans since we're talking about spoilers here. Anyway, I kind of spoiled part of the ending for Andy in our last recording. We had to cut it out. Yeah. I felt like such a huge jerk. So it wasn't the biggest twist, but it was a big twist.
I don't know if it was a twist. He just revealed that Kratos doesn't die, and where I was in the game, the prophecies that Loki finds at that point of the game are all showing that he dies.
At Ironwood with Angrboda right there. Yes. So yeah, there's the whole prophecy that you see at the end of the first game where he finds out that his name is Loki, and then he sees Kratos actually sees, he doesn't show Loki, but he sees behind a tapestry Loki holding a person that looks like him in his arms, and his spirit is leaving his body. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, everything was pointing to Kratos is going to die.
Yeah,
but he didn't. Spoilers.
Man, so overall, oh man, I'm almost still not talking about spoilers. But okay, this is our last time saying spoilers. This is the last time.
Yeah, we don't have to say the word spoiler anymore.
We're gonna just be talking loose. So I don't really have a way to necessarily go through it, but I think let's go ahead and start with story. I think that's the most obvious thing to start with, because we've already talked a little bit about mechanics. So I want to know how long have you played the game? What's your hour count at this point? And how much of the story? So you finished the main story. We both have, but have you done beyond content? I'd just like to know your initial impressions. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I definitely beat the main story. And I played probably another 6 hours or so after that. And so right now I think I'm at 31, 32 hours, something around there.
That makes sense.
And I've done a fair bit of side content, but I want to say, I'm guessing you have done actually even more now. So what's your timer at?
I played more than you. So I played 45 hours.
Wow. All right.
So I basically played the same amount of hours that I think the first time we talked, I was nearing 20 hours. I did that again this last week and a half.
Yeah. You just didn't stop. I took a little bit of a break.
I kept the pace. And I've done, I'm approaching, I was looking it up and it was completionist you can do it in like 50. And I was like, I bet if I put like another 5 to 10 hours, I'd be done.
Do you have to get 100% of everything to actually get the platinum? Because I know some games will give you the platinum before that happens.
I don't know. That's a great question. Because there are some things like it's not necessarily the like the birds. I have 3 birds. I want to find them. I don't know where they are, but I only have 3 left.
Oh, the Odin's Ravens, yeah.
The ravens. But then like the Cassavir poems and the things like that. I'm like, do I have to really find every one of those for the platinum? Let me look that up while you give me your thoughts.
I bet you do. I think I found 13 of those, and I think there's 14.
Well,
Kvasir.
The nice part is if you go by every region, it'll tell you exactly like it's not just like all of Alfheim. It doesn't tell you you're missing one thing anywhere. You can scroll over each smaller area, and it'll.
So there is one hidden thing that I looked up that is not in the world map. Remember the trolls from the first game?
Yes.
Have you fought the trolls in this game?
Yeah, I fought in like 3 of them already.
Okay, cool. Just you got all their armor? Those are not on the map.
I haven't got all their armor, but I've fought several of them.
Yeah. So if you beat them all, I think there's technically 4 trolls, but there's 3 locations. So there's 2 trolls at one location and then 2 singular trolls at other locations. And if you get them all, you can go to Lunda and get the most vitality armor in the game. I forget what it's called, but it's like you can build like almost maxed vitality and defense off of that one armor set from beating those. But you have to use that mystical amulet thing.
I found every time I found one, like I think one of them was in Midgard at like the top of one of the. You remember like there was each of the portals or they weren't portals. They were like each of the different realm towers. One of them was
it's like one of the outposts.
And then one of them, I went back to an area late after the game was over.
One's in the Alfheim Desert, yeah.
I don't think.
And then, so there's one in the Alfheim Desert, one in Midgard, and then the other 2, the dual one is in Vanaheim.
I haven't done a dual one yet. So that's I did the other 2 then.
And you're using the mystic amulet thing to waken them up. Maybe we're talking about different things. Like it is the troll bosses from the first game, like through and through.
Yeah, but I have fought them. I fought troll bosses, but I haven't had to wake anything up. Oh, we're talking about something else.
We are. Let's talk about it offline. I think that'll be fun. But anyway, so let's get to the story. Yeah. So we've already kind of like touched on this quite a bit, but I think now we can kind of talk about it in specific terms. Yeah. I thought it was really good. So the story beats what happens, how they handle Ragnarok, how they handle like Thor and Odin and Freya. I think it's wonderful. I think some of the pacing was a little slow at times. Like Ironwood was a little slow, but it was cool to see Angerboda and to kind of see that whole thing. Like some people are saying, like I know, like Damon from GameScoop was saying, like that was like his least favorite part. It definitely wasn't I don't think I had a least favorite part.
No, I actually liked playing as Loki a lot of the time.
Yeah. Oh, the Loki gameplay was incredible.
I think for me, it wasn't the pacing was too slow. I had issues with inconsistency in pacing where there would be sections that would be very slow, but I liked that. But then I felt the end of the game was so fast.
Yeah, it was.
That it didn't match the pacing. And so like the rest, like, okay. Oh, sorry. You're right. I'm not meaning to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
Like one instance where I thought totally came out of nowhere, and I felt like they ruined the build up to, was the whole how they handled Heimdall, because I feel like they made you hate him, and you were building up, and you were like, I can't wait for this fight, and then he just shows up out of nowhere at the end of a level where I wasn't even expecting to see him.
Yeah.
And then you just kill him. And I was like, why was there not like a sequence leading up to that boss fight that I was expecting to fight him? I didn't like how he just showed up and I was like, oh, I'm doing the boss fight for Heimdall now. Okay. Why now?
Yeah, it was weird to have it in Vanaheim. I'd agree. I think it may have made more sense to do like more of like a boss rush thing towards the end, like with Thor and with Odin.
Which they probably were trying to space out Heimdall from Thor and Odin for again, pacing for like gameplay purposes. But to me, and there's the story beat of like, that's what makes Odin furious is that you killed Heimdall. But,
but yeah, again, on the pacing with Odin, like I feel like he like became the big bad, like at the last second.
Same.
And I felt so when they show that he is Tyr and that he kills Brock, that blew my mind.
Yeah, I almost didn't even believe it. It was I was like, wait, Tyr was way too convincing as a good person and a pacifist and all of that part of him. And I was like, that was Odin.
It's good. Time? It shows like the true cunning of like what Odin is, like him being like the Allfather and like creating a lot of things and like kind of just being wise beyond his appearance. I thought that was really cool. But Eric Williams, the director, in another spoiler cast was saying, you know, like when you first rescue Tyr, there's like raven feathers like sitting next to him in the corner of the room, and like
they give hints to it.
Yeah, there's hints all throughout the game that you wouldn't know to look for until you know those facts. So I thought that was really, really cool.
But what I didn't buy, again, this is all personal preference, and for the record, we loved the game. I loved.
It's a 10 out of 10 for me.
I think the part of the spoiler cast that we couldn't do is talk about maybe what we didn't like, but there are things that I loved too that we're going to get into. So sorry if we're getting too negative, but I remember thinking like, okay, but he was so convincing. But then for some reason, Brock's moment where he was confused made him snap. I was like, why that moment?
Yeah, and I think that was a bit of like it could have been improved with dialogue a little bit. But like Brock saw him grabbing the mask and kind of like being twitchy with it and like kind of walking away. And he was like, something's not adding up. And then he gets stabbed.
He was like, why are you calling him Loki? His name's Atreus. And I was like...
But that's been mentioned a few times.
He's been called Loki several times by other characters, and he himself has called himself Loki.
So there's a couple more small things. Like he calls Freya Frigg, which was like Odin's name for her, which Tyr wouldn't have known. And also there's a really, really subtle one that Eric said in the development. The subtitles, if you have them on, when it's Odin as Tyr, it doesn't have the accent over his name. And if it is Tyr, it does. So... Further up, did you go to the Niflheim jail, the prison, and find the real Tyr?
No. What? What? No, that's not I want to do that as soon as we're done.
That's not a joke.
So I went back to Niflheim to do there's a Berserker gravestone, and I wanted to do it.
It's not that. There's another path that opens up after you finish the game. That goes to what they call the Niflheim prison, and it's where Odin stores all of his captors to take their form, because without them being alive, he actually can't take their form. That's the mythology that they kind of inject into it.
I was just going to say, do you think Tyr's alive? So, okay, oh man, that's a must-do side quest.
Yeah, and it broke my brain a little bit. I was like, wait, after like I knew he was Odin, it's like, he's dead, right? Like, Odin killed him. It's all been a ploy from the get-go.
But I went back to Niflheim. I only could do that because I got the last.
He's there
from Ratatoskr. He gave me the thing to go back to Niflheim to the other area, but I thought I explored it. Weird. I'll have to look. Do you mean Niflheim?
Where the ravens are? Yeah.
Where the ravens?
Where the raven tree is? To get the armor from the Odin's ravens when you rescue them or kill them, rather.
Yes.
That's Niflheim, right?
Yeah, I went to the area that you go as Loki at one point. And,
you can go back as Kratos, and like there's a training area, there's a Berserker Stone, and then there's the Ravens chests, and then there's also a secret pathway that you can go. It's really not that big of a spot; it's pretty easy to find. But you can go. It's a multi-tiered like kind of mini dungeon, and then you clear each level, and when you get to the bottom. It's kind of like a really simple spatial puzzle, and you get to the bottom, and then you open the last door, and there's Tyr.
That's cool. I'm definitely going to do that.
So and that's all to say. Like once you finish the game, it is like I would even say like half done. Like there are so many Easter eggs and like Well, it depends on how many you do during the game, I guess.
Fair, though, I did a ton during the game. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know yet. But looking at like the percentages of every area, I don't know if I have any area 100% yet, but every area is 80, 90% on my map.
But like you said, you did 14 more hours than I did so far.
Yeah. And I got so far I've done all the Berserkers, and I'm saving the Berserker King. Currently what I'm doing is I'm doing the Muspelheim stuff.
Gotcha.
There are a lot more of those than I thought.
Oh gosh. Okay.
You do like the initial 6, and then it opens up. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold on. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12 more after that. It's a lot.
Gosh, yeah, no, there's so much I have to do. I haven't beaten any Berserkers yet. I've found a few and tried a few. I haven't beaten them yet. And I know once you beat them all, is that when it opens up Gana?
No, Gana's already open. I just haven't done it yet.
Oh, okay, gotcha. But is she like the mega ultra boss?
Yeah, and she's just in a hidden spot. But once you find her, you'll be like, when you find her, you accidentally stumble on it, and you're like, oh,
gotcha.
God. Like,
so there's a few like
I would consider her not the mega. I think the Berserker King is because you can just play Gana immediately after beating the game, but the Berserker King you have to beat every other Berserker first.
Oh, okay. Have you ran into the like there are random like regular enemies, quote unquote, but they're like super powered, kind of just like out in the open? Like you don't have to go into like a special cave or open a Berserker Stone or anything like that.
Maybe
like the werewolves and the trolls. There's a couple of those.
Oh yes, 100%. The wolf one was
the alphas.
Really hard. The alpha wolf. I remember I stumbled upon him, and very few enemies did I like. I was like, I can't beat this yet. I have to come back. And I remember that was one of them because I was way underpowered. I wasn't ready, and at least for the difficulty I was on, I was like, I have to come back.
Yeah. So we can keep talking about kind of story as we're going through beats, but like in terms of gameplay, now that we know that Kratos gets his third weapon, he gets his spear, the Draupnir spear.
The Draupnir, yeah.
What after playing with that for a while, and you doing as much gameplay as you have, where do you still stand on your favorite weapons? What you've been doing, like what do you think was the best implemented? That kind of stuff.
I would probably rank, if I were going to rank the weapons, I still personally prefer the axe the most. I feel like the axe is kind of an in-between the spear and Blades of Chaos as far as utility goes. Like,
sure.
Like you can throw the spear faster. I feel like the spear works. There's a lot of ranged mechanics in the spear. And then there's a lot of up close and melee mechanics with the Blades of Chaos, and the axe kind of is in between those two things. And I like the frost. I like slowing the enemies. Like I really like those mechanics. But the spear is cool, man. And once I really did have to get used to. It's just a different play style, and you get it so late in the game that it just wasn't how I was used to playing. And once I committed to like I'm gonna play with the spear, I was like, okay, like. I constantly was used to holding triangle before I hit with my axe and Blades of Chaos and
it's the opposite with the spear.
The spear, it's the other way. You want to load people up, jump back, and then pop them. And if you have time, hold triangle to do an extra big pop. And like, it really feels different. And I will say this: the Draupnir spear is much more useful and helpful for some bosses too. I noticed that a lot with the Berserkers. In particular, which to me is where the game, kind of the only part where it dips into Dark Souls territory are the Berserkers from my experience. But like, they're the only enemies to me that were like most of the game I played the way I want to play. The Berserkers were like, nope, if you play, you can't play anyway. You have to adjust your armor and equipment and weapon based on what's happening.
And you have to be methodical about the way you do it. You have to parry. You have to do all that kind of stuff.
But what I mean is, like, there was one that was incredibly. It was like there was actually one point where I was like, "This is stupid. Why would you put this in the game?" Where I had to fight 3 at once, and I was getting so mad, 3 Berserkers at once, and I was like, and then finally I was like, you know what? Let's change my armor so that I'm using the armor. And I had enough resources at this point to upgrade any armor I want, basically. And I was like, I upgraded the armor that every time you do, like, I went all, what do they call that? Where it slows time. I forget what they call that.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Realm Shift.
Realm Shifts. I did like all the Realm Shift abilities. And then I went all drop near spear and just was dodging and just hitting people with ranged attacks as much as possible. And it made it a much easier fight. And I was like, okay.
Is that cheesing though?
I don't know if I cheesed it or I just played. I was strategic. I changed my normal play style.
Yeah, those arenas, they're just circles, right? Like there's not really a way to like have them locked behind a wall and like you're just like firing spears into them. Like you have to face them.
Yeah, it's oh yeah. There's no like terrain hiding. No.
Yeah.
And it was just so obnoxious where there's two people doing ranged attacks and one person constantly jumping on you. So like, I literally was like, unless I just permanently dodge and never attack, I'm like, I would die every time I did anything. That honestly is not even an enjoyable encounter. I beat it, but it wasn't fun.
So, one cool thing I thought was they kind of just assume, you know how to play the game. With the way they ease you into like the early game with the controls and everything. She's like, all right, like if you're playing this game, it's very, very, very likely that you've played the first one and enjoyed it enough to buy a second one.
Yeah.
So that was cool. It was very minimal tutorial at the beginning of the game.
They slowly too with, some people compare this game at times. It almost had almost like a Street Fighter, like fighting combos and stuff. I was like, but in the beginning, it builds that slowly. Like in the very beginning, you've got very few abilities. Like when you first unlock hold R1 to drag the axe through the ground and throw the frost on somebody, I was like, oh, I did that all the time.
Yeah, and it's definitely not a fighting game. Like it's
no,
there's nowhere near the level of like mega combos. Like there are some, which is kind of cool. Like they changed it up a little bit, made it a little bit more complex that way. But
yeah, it's not that complicated. But it does get, especially when you have all three weapons all the way maxed out. Like there were fights where it's almost like intuition. I was just switching between the tools that I needed at the time. And
because they incentivize it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, especially like I love the system of if you don't like that or you're bad at the game, that might piss you off, or you feel like I just want to use my axe. But I liked where there would be a heat armor on an enemy, and I'd be like, oh, I need to use my frost weapon to take down their shield. Or they'd have the opposite, or they'd have the gray one, which meant you have to hit them with the drop near spear. And then once the shield's gone, you can use whatever you want. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I haven't gotten it yet, but I've heard it's kind of like a cheesy weapon is the Mimir. You can use him as like a laser beam, essentially with his Bifrost eyes.
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah, I haven't touched it yet, but I've heard that's like if you know how to use it the right way with the right armor set and all those perks and stuff, it's like a really good way to like cheese some of the bosses.
Maybe. I found that I've noticed. So let's talk about the runic attacks of the different weapons. I thought the runic attacks were really cool, and it made it, talk about a cool way to make the game a little more personal to you. Like if I were to watch you play, I might be like, dude, I don't use those moves. You know what I mean? Like those moves are really cool for you or whatever. But I did find that a lot of the times some of those moves, because first off, you couldn't cancel some of them, which was very frustrating. I was like, okay, if I no longer want to do this move because someone's about to hit me, I should be able to cancel and dodge. Like
committed, fully committed.
Which maybe that fits with the Kratos, at least the old Kratos lore. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of old Kratos, like the whole Heimdall thing, like where he like becomes old Kratos again, and he like has like the rage in his eyes and like literally chokes Heimdall out, chokes the life out of him. It's like that's such a dark moment. Like I wasn't expecting that, honestly. Like they were kind of teasing at it, but I wasn't expecting it to go like that far south. Like I was fully expecting Heimdall to die, but maybe just not like that. I don't know. What were your thoughts on that?
He did pause though, and wasn't going to kill him, but then like they proved Heimdall forced him to kill him. Like,
yeah, because he re-threatened Atreus. Right? Wasn't that what did it?
Yeah, he wasn't going to stop, and he kept attacking. If like the moment Kratos turned his back on him, he tried to attack him again. Like it was never going to end.
Yeah,
and Odin kind of felt the same way at the end, where Atreus looked at him and was like, "You have to stop," and he goes, "I never will." And Atreus was like, "Why did you say that?"
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a very similar moment, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought Thor played a really good anti-hero too.
Yes. So Thor is actually the best villain, quote unquote, in the game. Anti-hero is a good word. To me, because like everything Thor did to me felt real to character. Like he was a consistent character. But I think what it is a little disappointing that he never got back at Odin. He stood up, but the moment he stood up, he died. And that kind of sucks.
I don't know. I felt like they timed that well. I felt like they played that really well. Like it was kind of like his, like he plays like the whole like absent father, like drunk, like has done a lot of stupid stuff and has been pushed around by Odin like his entire life, but then is finally starting to stand up for himself, which is a weird thing to say because he's literally a giant, and he's one of the most powerful beings in the entire universe. Yeah. But he's going up. He's the number 2 going up against the number 1 who constantly pushes him around, puts him down, calls him stupid. And then he's failing his family by being a drunk. But then he kind of has that redemption factor, like right towards the end where he's like seeing what Loki and Kratos are seeing. And then Kratos kind of changes his mind. And then, right 3 seconds later, he gets murdered. So, but no, I think I have the cast list here. What's his name? Ryan Hurst. Did an amazing job. I thought Thor was one of the better played characters in the game.
100%. I honestly wish we would have had even more of him. Like I wish he would have been.
100%.
Part of the game. Like he was. Every scene with him was one of my favorite scenes. And like when Loki would travel with him, I was like, this is just fun. Like
it's and that whole companion system. That's like a cool thing they transitioned into. Like they had that in the first game with Atreus, and then they expanded on that to where you become Atreus, and then you have Brock and Sindri occasionally, and then you have Thor as a companion, but really you're his companion, but you're just the one with the stick.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a cool thing because like you're fighting around and he'll just demolish enemies in one swipe, and then when you come up to an obstacle, like they play it off in the dialogue and the story of like, hey, we need to get this way, but you can't actually tell him to do it.
Yeah.
You're just like, hey, Thor, we need to go through here, and then he's like, well, I guess I'll do this, and he just breaks it.
Yeah. Did you find Thrud after the end of the game?
Yes.
Cool. That was an awesome moment. Like, I mean, it was just a quick little tease, but it was fun.
Yeah. Man, Mjolnir. I know that what Eric Williams said was like, it was too obvious that we couldn't give you control of Mjolnir, but man, did I want it. Mm-hmm. He's like, the Leviathan axe is the antithesis to Mjolnir. It was designed to go against it.
And to be honest, gameplay, like if you were to design attacks, the Leviathan axe is kind of like Mjolnir. It's that's
the whole point.
Recall, like it is like a Mjolnir, so it's like you'd rather have something different. So the spear did make sense, though. I just wish they would have built the lore of the spear more before you got it. I remember initially being like, wait, what's Draupnir? And they explained Draupnir a lot more after you got it, but I felt like leading up to it, they didn't explain it.
They went into the whole Harry Potter-esque like dungeon where like the things are multiplying, and Sindri has this like emotional connection to it.
Yeah, he just can. Yeah, I don't know. It was cool, but then I was like, "Who's this mermaid lady?" Like we haven't talked about. Like they kept it mysterious leading up. They're like, "Oh, what do they call it? The smith, the forge something." I don't remember what they called it, but the lady of the something. And then you see her, and then like I don't know. It's just I wish they would have.
My favorite line during that part was how they were explaining Dwarven magic and how it's about it's like the intention behind something, not necessarily the material behind it.
Yeah, that was cool.
And so they were saying like Lunda made me armor out of dog barks at one point, and I was like, that's the wildest thing I've ever heard. It's like how do you even do that?
The game is just so good at dialogue. I will say that. Like, when would I have liked better, like timing of when they told us things and like more of this and less of that. Yes. But the dialogue as it is written is fantastic. And
oh man.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I couldn't wait to like get to like the travel points where you were like on a boat or on the dog sled and just like listening to the characters talk to one another.
Yes.
I thought that was just so, because there's so much like interesting things that they had to say, and it was just nonstop of just unique dialogue. Like each character must have had like 100 hours worth of lines that they recorded, man. Like it's such like rich dialogue. It's ridiculous.
How about Mimir? Mimir is maybe my favorite companion.
Hand claps for Alistair Duncan.
In any game I've ever played. Like, because he's with you 99% of the game. There are moments where
just about, yeah.
But he's so great. And I saw some people like, it's a little split. Some people get a little annoyed. And I'm like, I get it. If you don't like him, you're going to be like, God.
You're really not going to like him.
Like, because he's just there all the, but I love it. And like, I love how there's a friendship between you and Mimir. Like you built, like my son Noah came by and was like, why is there a head on you? And I went, that's my best friend.
It's his brother.
You shut up. That's my best friend.
Yeah, they call each other brother in this game.
Yeah.
As opposed to last game. Well, so Mimir would call Kratos brother in the first game, but Kratos would just say Mimir or just address him directly. But in this game, Kratos actually calls Mimir brother, which I thought was a really cool thing.
So my favorite Mimir moment probably was the end game. I genuinely... they wrote it and it hit, bro. I didn't expect this. I thought it was going to be a punchline and it was going to be stupid. But Brock's joke or his riddle of what gets larger as you take it away.
Take away from it, yeah. A hole.
And then the way it's delivered, the answer is delivered, like, honestly... Okay, let's talk a little bit about Sindri and Brock's death, because that to me was made way bigger than I thought they were good. To me, Brock, while I love the character,
okay. So before we answer this, did you find the actual credits?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. All right, so we can continue
because the actual credits happen after that moment where he says the whole
at his funeral.
After the funeral, yeah.
But
yeah, so I went to the funeral but they made the whole Brock thing so big. And man, I genuinely thought Sindri was going to, at the funeral, maybe like acknowledge you and be like, I'm mad, but I understand. Like, but he still is mad at Kratos.
Yeah, and that's the point where I'm like, where is the next game going to go? Like, what is going to happen? Because they can't just like leave it as like I don't know, like Kratos is just, he sees the tapestry thing and now he's like an actual god, like with people that love and worship and revere him. But then like, what happens with Sindri? Like, does Sindri like go off and try to like, I mean, Asgard's dead. So like, what does he have to do? Like, what other like conflict does he have to resolve? So I don't know. I'm just extremely curious to see what they do with the next game, because there's definitely going to be another God of War. There has to be.
I think that the next game, my prediction is that they will take a 1-game break from God of War, and then they will make a full-on game, and I think they'll call it like God of Mischief or something. And it will be an adult Loki. And I don't think you will play as Kratos, and I'm not even sure if you'll see him. I think there might be a tease to see him, but I think you will be a full-on adult Loki.
And it's going to be released exclusively on the PS Vita.
Correct. The Vita 2.
But yeah, they could definitely do like the Uncharted, the one where with Chloe.
Yeah, Lost Legacy.
Yeah, that's actually a great game. It's just a shortened version with like the graphics and all the stuff from like Uncharted 4.
I definitely was not thinking a short game, but maybe. But I do think when they bring Kratos back, it'll be after a break. I think they'll let that sit, and then it'll be like that Game Awards moment before 2018 when they like revealed that the God of War was back. It'll be something like that, I think. And
you still think in Egypt?
I don't know, and I was trying to think why would he go, and I was like maybe, I mean, okay, is he if Kratos is the god of war in Norse mythology now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Theoretically, does he? I mean, the Norse were known for raiding, so maybe why would he do that though? I don't know. Like character wise, I don't know why.
The Vikings invaded Europe. So, but yeah, he's turned a new leaf at the end of this game, right?
Yeah, but like maybe it will be like Norse versus Egyptian mythology. Like it'll be more of a like I don't know. Like does Loki stick around if it's
going to be in Ireland and he's going to turn into a leprechaun?
Yeah,
that's what it is.
If Kratos invades another mythology or whatever you want to say. Does Loki is he like I don't know, and I don't think he would just show up in another place.
Mm-hmm.
And just live there because they already did that once with God of War 2018. He ran away to escape, and
they don't really flesh that out much. Like in the entirety of the game, really. I mean, they talk about it, but
I mean,
they don't.
That was enough for me. He ruined everything was burnt and gone from his past in Greece, and he just needed to go. So. He just needed to go somewhere, and he ended up finding a woman and falling in love, and they had another kid, and then things spiraled.
Yeah. So actually, that's a good point. When you're talking about marrying a woman, and so I thought Faye, actually having her as a character was probably my low point of the game. I don't think it was necessary to have her as a fleshed out character. I think it was I would think it was better to have the mystery of Faye than to actually see her face and know who she was.
Well, there's still a lot of mystery there, but I get your point. Because almost every time we saw her face, it was just, first off, she didn't explain that much, in my opinion. She still just told him, like...
That's why I thought it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't add substance with her. Like, it's like, all right, we know that she was the original owner of the Leviathan Axe. We know she helped the dwarves. We know that she gave directions for Kratos and Atreus and all that kind of stuff. So, like, but they didn't explain much more in the dreams. They just kind of like they just humanized Kratos a little bit more. That's really what they did.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess I didn't mind either way. It's just the delivery of the story, not necessarily the story itself. The story is really good, and I really liked it. But
good.
I get your point. I get your point there. I think that's true. I don't think it was too long. I think a lot of people said that the story was too long. What did you think about the length?
No, I thought it was good. I wanted more of it, especially with how quick it ended. If they would have stretched the ending out like another 2 hours, maybe, I think that would have been absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I liked the ending. And I understand, like, probably the budget and development costs that went into all the stuff that happened at the end.
Dude, the set pieces were ridiculous.
In just the whole invading Asgard, it was really cool. It just was a flash in the pan compared to, you've played that game a long time.
Yeah. So
and it didn't have like Helm's Deep at the end of The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, feels like a monumental section of that movie. I would argue the invasion of
Asgard
feels like a blip in proportion to the full game.
Well, yeah, because it was them gathering the freaking 8 of the 9 realms to rally against Asgard. So,
and then like major things that you gathered died like immediately, which they tried to play off as like, oh my God, they're dying immediately. We have no chance. And I was like, yeah, but okay. So what was the point of that? Like,
yeah. So a couple of cool things about Loki. And so in Norse mythology, Loki is known as the father of Jormungandr. And I think Fenrir, is that right? So they fleshed that out in this game.
Yeah.
And so Fenrir is his pet wolf.
The
and then
Fenrir part was awesome.
And you fight Garm, and then you imbue Garm with Fenrir's soul, and then Fenrir goes to Midgard to go quote unquote home, and then he becomes the giant wolf of Midgard.
Correct. And because Garm is in Helheim and has no soul, he can put a soul in him.
Yeah.
Which is like
it's so cool.
So cool.
Did you catch what happened with Jormungandr though?
Wait.
So
which one?
The snake, the world serpent.
I didn't catch.
So when you're in Ironwood and you're going to fight Angrboda's grandmother, what happens right before you fight the grandmother? You find the snake, right?
Oh, and you release it. You put the
soul of one of the giants in the snake, and then
it just slides away.
And then there's a quote from Mimir later, during Ragnarok when Jormungandr and Thor are fighting, and it says Thor hit Jormungandr so hard that he knocked him back in time, and so that's the whole mythos behind Loki bridging that gap of giving Jormungandr a soul, and then Jormungandr just kind of going through time and being the world serpent. It's just this whole crazy thing, but that's the connection right there. So that marble that he found was Jormungandr.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That blew my mind. I was like, whoa, that's how they did that? That's so cool. Like those little, I don't know, things that they can do to like tell those bits of story and tie it into the actual mythology. It was super, super cool to me.
And that was an interesting part too, because I remember Jormungandr told Loki to go to Ironwood, but then I was like, why did that was a interesting.
It's a whole crazy time loop thing. Yeah,
I liked this section. Yeah, and I guess that's the story why he told him to do that, which does make a time loop, but whatever, that's fun, right?
That's the whole point of it. Yeah, it was just to make a flat circle of time based on that little mini story.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Oh man, to me it was the Fenrir story and the big, just your big puppy dog. And I was
the Garm fight was incredible though, leading up to that.
Yes.
Oh, I love when you, especially in God of War games, they're just known for this, where you get to like fight mountains and shit. Like fighting big, like monumentally scaled things like that is like one of the coolest things you can do in a video game, because that's the only place you can do it, like video game and like movies.
Yeah. Did you fight all the dragons in
I fought 2 of them. I don't know if there's more, but I fought in the crater. Yeah,
there's like 4 of them.
Yeah, I only fought 2 so far.
That is okay. What is that? Vanaheim? Vanaheim is by far the biggest realm
because of the crater. Yeah.
Not just dude. It just keeps going. Like if that is, I just didn't expect it to be. I was like, there's more to this freaking place. Like,
yeah, because the main Vanaheim map is big with the boat and everything, and then you can find the crater after the fact, after you do the story beats.
And then there's all the sections from Freya's brother's camp, and there's like, it just keeps going and going and going and going and going. You do the wolves, the wolves that chase the sun and moon. You do that's just a massive area.
The boat that you get from Freyr is that was. I didn't know about that. I didn't know that was a thing. And when you get it, you just like throw this little origami boat into the water, and then it starts flying, and then they start laughing at you, which is hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then I remember when what was the guy's name who jumps off into the crater?
Big Yor or something like that.
I had no idea. They like the camera cut to him, and I was like, who the hell's this guy?
Oh no, they introduced him previously.
Yeah, well, not well. And then he sacrificed himself. And I was like, I don't remember him. Like
he just screams for Vanaheim and just yeets himself off of a boat 3 miles in the air.
They were like, my boy. And I was like, I roughly remember him as like one of what's Freya's Freyr? One of Freyr's like guys, but that was it. Like I remembered the elf couple much more than him. Like the husband and wife, dark elf, white elf. I was like, they were cool and like unique and interesting, but I didn't remember. And so
I just remember the giant like buster sword that he had.
But then that crater area is huge, and there are 3 main areas outside of the. No, it's not just the crater. There's the crater, and then you go down into the What did they call that?
The wishing pool thing.
And there's 2 ways to get to the wishing pool, and like, man,
I fought like the Cragjaw, and then the 2 flying dragons, and then there's like, I guess according to you, one more dragon to fight there.
I think there's 3 or 4 total. Did you fight the hidden Cragjaw?
The hidden Cragjaw.
One of them was like,
I did the one where it tells you like, oh, there's tremors, like what's causing that, and then you go underground and then you fight him.
No. There's one where there's like a lift, and you go down the lift, and then you have to hold it open, and you have to coax an enemy, one of the like enemy wolves, into the trap, and then you close the gate. And
oh no, I haven't done that at all yet.
And when you lift it up, it summons him because he's hungry, and then you go up there to fight him.
Interesting. Is he harder than the first one?
Yeah, he's harder.
What difficulty did you play on? I played on Give Me Grace, and I think you're a bit more of like a quote unquote hardcore Soulsy gamer dude, so you probably played slightly harder, right?
Maybe a little. So I only did Give Me Balance, which is I would consider normal. Like that's the middle of the 5 difficulties.
Yeah, there's 5. Okay, so there's like Give Me a Story, which is like just the super easy version. Give Me Grace, Give Me Balance. Give me a challenge, and then give me God of War. Yeah,
and the Give Me God of War. If you at any point in the game go down in difficulty, you cannot go back up.
It's kind of like the version of like a permadeath almost.
It's not permadeath. What I mean is like,
but they block you from going back up to it.
Correct. You can't make it easier for one fight and then go back. Like can you beat this the whole game without ever going down? Mm-hmm. And I'm not, and that's where I'm not really a Dark Souls player. I would say I want a game to be just challenging enough that maybe I'll die a few times and I'll be like, I gotta like really muster everything I have. But if I can't beat something like at all, now to be fair, some of these Berserker fights really but again, those fights are optional content that's supposed to be that hard. So
yeah, do the Berserker fights scale?
Oh yeah, what do you mean scale?
Like if you put it on a harder difficulty, yes. Do they actually get harder?
Yes, surely. I think it's, and I would argue, I don't know, but I bet it's not just like meat shields. I bet the AI is more aggressive, and I bet the parry timing changes too. I've noticed that a few times where I was like, man, they're being real gracious with that parry window. Mm-hmm. Like, I bet the parry timing is much more like you got to nail it on Give Me God of War.
Gotcha. Yeah, so like I said, I was even dying on Give Me Grace on some of the Berserkers, so I don't think I'll be able to go up much higher than Give Me Balance. I definitely wouldn't try Give Me God of War, but that's probably like just me. Like I finished the game a lot quicker than you did in terms of just the main story. Yeah. And so that's just who I am. I like to kind of Golden Path stuff a little bit more. I did do a fair amount of side stuff, but I definitely enjoyed kind of just getting to the story.
I bet you, and I don't know this for sure, but I bet the Resurrection Stones aren't even available in Give Me God of War. I feel like the Resurrection Stones were like, it almost felt like cheating. Whenever I like bought one of those and I beat a boss using one, I was like, yeah, but like I didn't really beat it.
Yeah, I feel that. Man, this game looks incredible.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What do you think the jump was like from the 2018 to this one, PS4 to PS5?
So if you had a jump from God of War 3 to God of War 2018, I'd probably say that's like if we had to put it in percentages, like a 400 to 500% increase in like fidelity and resolution. And because I think that game ran at 1080p, and then it's very like low poly comparatively, and the camera work and just the character modeling and all that kind of stuff. So if you have that gap and kind of imagine that like a 4 to 5x increase in quality, this one probably only has like a 20 to 30% increase in quality, I'd say. Like they kind of like, they weren't trying to reinvent, and we said this in the last episode that we talked about this. Mm-hmm. They weren't trying to reinvent the wheel again. They were just trying to improve on what they had already made. And so I think they accomplished that. I think it looks great. It runs almost perfectly smoothly. I did actually find a couple of frame drop places like in the post game, but they're very few and far between. And I'm pretty sure like my PS5 had to be repaired a while back because of like a RAM or GPU issue. I think it failed, and I think it still has a little bit of like a gremlin in it. So like I get pop in and like weird games and stuff, but it's not terrible. So don't like take that with a grain of salt is all I'm saying. What's that?
A gremlin. That's
yeah. Awesome. That's something. It's like a ghosting machine. I don't know.
Yeah.
So take my review on the technical aspects with a grain of salt because of that. But
I mean, you still said 30 to 40%. I mean, that's still a sizable jump in quality. You know what I mean? Like,
it's more of like a tightening of everything more so than a reimagining, or like they completely repainted everything with new textures and stuff. I think Digital Foundry, I think I recommended them last time, but their technical review is probably the best one out there. And they kind of showcase PS4 versus PS4 Pro versus PS5, all that kind of stuff, and all the different modes. They do a really good job of that. So if you want to see more detail, that's the place to do it.
Yeah, the thing was interesting, I think, about any console is you really never see the fidelity that a machine is capable of till near the end of its life cycle. I think of things like Uncharted 4 on the PS4. Like, that game looked so good compared to games that came out on the launch window of the PS4, because the reality is that when the PS5 came out, or whenever any console first comes out, the user base is low. So if there's only 5,000 people that buy the console at launch, or 5 million or whatever, I don't know how many people buy it, not 5,000. Say it's 5 million. That'd be a lot at launch. The game developers, first party or third party, are not going to just make an exclusive game, most likely, unless they're subsidized by Sony, because they're not going to sell enough units. God of War can sell way more than 5 million units. They want to sell 20, 30 million units or whatever. Sure. And so they're going to make it for PS4 and PS5, and then that inevitably holds the PS5 version back. And so I would be anxious to see, like, what are games going to look like now that Sony has decided to fully pour into just, like they said, God of War Ragnarok was the last cross-platform first-party exclusive.
Yeah. So
every
next
game
year, and then
by PlayStation Studios will be PS5 only now.
That's exciting.
That's exciting, and that will mean, like, I think we will see. It'll still feel marginal. I mean, diminishing returns
until the end of the console generation. I think until like 5 years from now, when PS5 has its swan song title, I think that's when we're really going to see, like, okay, this is like this system pushed to the absolute limit, because it's an incredible system. Like the one of the coolest like little nerd facts about it is the RAM speed in it is like 5 gigabytes a second. It's ridiculous. Like the fastest PC M.2 drives run at like 7 gigs, which is ridiculous. Yeah. But to know that a home console for $500, like that memory for a PC would be like $200 by itself.
And there are moments in God of War Ragnarok where I would say, if you're wanting, like, really pay attention to the ray tracing and the lighting in like places like Vanaheim or through the jungle, or like you're like, when you look up through the trees, I'm like, this is amazing.
Well, and I don't know if God of War has ray tracing. I think it's all pre-baked, even in fidelity mode.
Well, it's killing it. It looks perfect.
It's incredible. I think I remember that from Digital Foundry. The performance mode definitely doesn't have ray tracing, but I think the fidelity mode is, I don't know, the volumetric, pre-baked, pre-rendered lighting schemes, whatever they call it. It may, I don't know, I may be wrong on that.
I mean, I played performance too.
Same. Performance definitely doesn't have ray tracing. I know that for a fact.
Oh, well, man, that's crazy, because I thought it did, and it looks amazing. And then, like, the lighting, but then also at times, I'd be like, the textures on Kratos' skin look so real and good and, like, not perfect. Like, there's at times when, did you ever have a bug, any kind of fidelity or gameplay bug?
I had one visual bug where, like, a notification maintained on screen.
Oh, I had that more than once. Yeah. And
that was about it. But no, like, there was one part in the end game where his beard cuts through his shoulder, through like part of his armor. But it was just like in one of those spots. And then at the very beginning, it wasn't necessarily a bug. It's just the way the textures move. Like, so his armor has like leather and fur and metal, like kind of all intertwined. And I noticed the part where the metal buckles was stretching like the leather was. And I was like, that's kind of like a little weird. But I think that also goes back to like it has to be functional in PS4. And that's like, that's a very small thing that they just kind of probably have to let slide.
My only noticeable actual bug the whole time, other than UI sticks, things like that, but I just saved and loaded, and it was gone, was do you know the area where you there's the dam to the river and you fill up the water in Vanaheim?
No, I think I saw the quest, but I don't think I ever did that part.
So that floods that whole area and allows you to go to tons more places.
That's in the crater?
That's in the lower part of the crater.
Okay.
And the crater itself floods with water too and allows you to go to, like, you can now take a boat through the crater.
Okay, no, I think that's probably where I think I'm actually saved in Vanaheim right now.
Well,
so that's where I need to go next.
So when you go up the elevator to go to the dam to do that, there is a part where you get to the top of the dam and then you have to go on the back side of it. And there's one of the red like cracks in the wall where you can throw your Dropnir spear.
Mm-hmm.
And I was supposed to throw the Dropnir spear and explode it. And then it makes one of those pathways that you and Atreus like crawl through.
Yeah.
But then I like walked up to it and I noticed it gave me an X prompt. And I pressed X and I just walked through the wall. Me and Atreus just went through the explode that I was supposed to explode with the Dropnir spear, and we just walked through it. And I went, "Oh, what?" And then I went back, and then I went back through the wall, and then I threw the Dropnir spear, and it sure enough, it still exploded, but it let me walk through it if I wanted.
That's funny.
It was like a really, really small, insignificant thing. There was just no collision detection on that barrier.
Yeah,
like whatever.
That's interesting. Yeah, and in the one of the spoilercasts with Eric, the director again. So I keep calling it the crater because that's what he called it. That whole area of Vanaheim.
It is. It's called the crater, but there's
at least that. Yeah. And so he was like, this was the last part of the game that we developed, and it was just like because we could, and we wanted to expand the game.
You can feel that. So that area in my mind, I'm like, this feels truly extra. Like it is not. It doesn't even really cohesively fit that much, but it was fun.
Yeah, it's just a lot of extra gameplay that you can kind of get into. But yeah, it looks gorgeous. There's a lot of cool things to do. There's dragons, which was a super cool thing from the last game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was into it.
You also have to go to the crater if you want to upgrade your weapon or your armor all the way, because you need the wishing well. And there's some other things inside there that are really cool story moments talking about Faye and what she did.
With there's a second frozen lightning bolt there.
Correct, and you didn't do that, and so then you kind of learn more about that. And I thought honestly there were probably some throwaway quests that they probably could have got rid of, like a lot of the dead bodies who make you do these fetch quests. I'm like, this feels like Ubisoft's games. Like it doesn't. The God of War feels better than this. You probably could have just cut that.
It wasn't as like mono focused and on rails to say like something like The Last of Us.
And it made it less tight than the 2018 game. Like I would argue that the 2018 God of War is honestly probably a little more of art in my opinion. Like it feels tight. It's a simple story and it's told so well and emotionally. And this game, while it has more systems, it's just more video gamey. This one to me is more video gamey, and even the story itself is a little bit more blockbuster-ish as opposed to like simple art story. Like, does that make sense?
I'd agree with a lot of that. I do think the story is incredible though. It does feel more like a Marvel movie though. Yeah. And not just because Thor's in it.
And that's what I mean, because like I kind of appreciate that. I don't know. I don't know if Odin was compelling enough for me. Yeah. I will say that he was extremely interesting until he wasn't at the end. Okay. He was interesting the whole time. Yeah. He just didn't really live up to being the big bad guy for me personally. Yeah. Like like when he died, I was like, that was an awesome story. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just didn't. And that's the weird thing about him. Turn enough. He needed to have his evil turn way more stretched out. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And it was kind of it was weird because
they kind of left it like he wasn't truly evil. He was just like obsessed with something.
Which that's kind of true to the story. I mean, to the lore. Like, Odin was obsessed with knowledge. He wanted to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what made him do everything he did. It wasn't because he hated anyone, or it was a quest and thirst for knowledge.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Did you think the mask looked like the mask from Jim Carrey's The Mask?
Yes, I never thought.
I couldn't stop thinking about it because it was wood and it glowed green, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, where's Jim Carrey?"
Yeah, and the mask, that whole thing too, like. There's this crack below your office, and then like I don't know if I even liked that storyline. And then like
it was a little weird because like Atreus has that one dream where he dreams about the mask, and then Odin,
why is the mask going? Like, I still don't understand. If you were to ask me, like, explain what the whole mask story was about, I was like,
does it actually go back into, because Odin mentions that's how he became blind, is because he put on a piece of the mask, looked into the rift, and then he became blind. But he's like, what if I had the whole mask?
Yeah.
And so is that actually part of Norse mythology?
I don't know. But maybe it's in the written notes. Like, I know I didn't go into the like the pause menu where you can read very much. But you know what's one thing that I thought was cool? That directory, if you went to the pause menu and read about a character, it changed depending on who you were playing in the moment. So if you read about a character as Kratos, it was spoken from his point of view and with his voice.
Oh, yeah.
But if you were Loki and you paused and you looked, so I did it obviously a little, it read it as Loki. And I was like, whoa.
I didn't know you could play them as like audio files. I just read them, and it was in their voice. It was in as Kratos wrote it.
It doesn't play. It's just written from their perspective, and you can tell. I mean, I can hear their voice reading it.
Sure.
But I just thought that was kind of interesting, because at one point I was like, "Oh, who is this character?" And I was like, "Whoa, this is written so differently now." Mm-hmm. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Was this game fun for you?
Dude, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
And that's where I think this game beats 2018 for me. 2018 was repetitive at times, did not have nearly as many upgrades, didn't have as many weapons, this game is still so fun, and that's why I want to keep playing. And I still want to beat Gná, and I still want to beat the last Berserker King, and I want to see if I can find just those last, I want to see, I don't know what the last chest is at for the Ravens, or if it's even worth my time. I have a feeling it's going to be an R2 relic, a heavy relic for the Dropnir Spear, because that's what the ones before that were. There was a heavy relic for the axe and one for the Blades of Chaos, and I love all of them. I
bet you there's gonna be like a secret 7th chest that appears, and it's like something way better. Like it maxes out your rage or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. I also still haven't found the very last apple to get my health all the way up. Mm-hmm. I don't even know where it is. I'm sure it's somewhere. Oh man, here's one part that was annoying that I just thought about. It's funny how I've talked about more annoying things in this than things I like.
Bring it.
There are some areas, now that I'm done with the game, that I have gone back to that I'm like, how the heck do I traverse this? And I'm running around looking for I can see where I'm supposed to go. I don't I don't know if I loved the traversal of this game, like the climbing, the.
I like the grapple shot thing with the Blades of Chaos. That was great.
Well, that to me, just do that the whole time. Don't ever have me slow climb a cliff. I don't like it.
Yeah. Unless it's like a dialogue moment, which they did kind of throw in there occasionally.
Like maybe the one where Loki climbs the wall in Asgard. That one was okay.
Yeah, because that was like a whole, that was a thing. It was like, if there was to be a climbing section, that was it.
Yes. And that was cool. I really liked that. But yeah, there were just times where I was like, I can't. And sometimes it was perfect and really well done. But I really thought, who was an interesting character was Surtur. I wasn't expecting that.
Same. Yeah, it's especially like going from like the super like Diablo, like devil-y caricature that he is in the MCU, going to like a very, very like human feeling creature that like is the only thing he talks about is like his love for his long lost wife that like he can't join. I thought that was super cool.
When I did go to Niflheim, I heard her cry.
Oh yeah, okay.
And then maybe that's the area you told me about, because he straight up says like, but I didn't check it out because Freya or someone said like, can we do something? And I think Mimir said there's nothing we can do. I don't know.
Interesting. Speaking of sort of when they go to the spark of the world, that whole part visually, how do you think that compares to like the first time you go down the well in Elden Ring when you see like the city with the like stars and stuff?
Oh man, you're talking about what was that?
I forget the name of it.
Siofra River.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as good as Siofra River. I think to me, it was beautiful. It just to me was a little bit like generic spacey area. I don't know. The Siofra River to me was like,
it has a bigger sense of scale, which is kind of weird to say because it's about space otherwise.
and it's a night sky underground.
Yeah, so it's more novel.
Which is a little bit like, whoa. And then there's a city above you and you're like, I just went down. Why is what? Like,
yeah, the spark of the world, you're just like, you kind of just feel like you're like on an asteroid, which is a cool thing. It's like super pretty.
There definitely was this Tekken moment where you finally beat the two Valkyries and
we used the bear.
And I wanted to put the like Super Smash Brothers like victory like over because it looked like the way your characters stand.
What's the Tekken bear character?
I don't know, but that moment.
Kuma.
Kuma, yeah. It definitely had the Tekken
Kratos
bear.
And Kuma. But
And
there's got to be a meme.
They were both like breathing. I know we're not recording video for this one, but the way the bear did that was really funny.
Oh man. But yeah, that dual Valkyrie fight with Kratos and Atreus, I thought that was super well done. It was fun to kind of have the Valkyries in the game again, even if it was like a slightly easier fight. It wasn't a super boss, but
yeah, I thought it wasn't too hard either. I mean, it was, you just had to dodge whenever they did the strips or whatever, which those fights are fun. Man, they just do so good. It's such a good game. The Thor fight at the end was great. The Odin fight was also really good and interesting and different. It just, it was fast. The freaking Heimdall fight was so good, despite my criticism of how it happened. Like the actual fight was fun.
Yeah, you liked using that because I think we had I had watched you play a little bit like right before that happened.
I was quite a bit before that happened.
Was it? Okay.
I had to do the whole Vanaheim run before I even got to him, and that was a crazy long section.
Gotcha. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like the way they guided you through the Heimdall fight, even though it was cool, like I kind of like felt like I knew what I was supposed to do and kind of like skipped the instructions, like waiting for Mimir to actually like tell you like what to do with him. But
yeah, I don't know. You knew you forged the spear specifically to kill him, so you knew what to do. Here's another part that was, I know we're just kind of keep going, and I'm kind of spontaneously thinking about was. One thing I didn't like is when Thor finally like decides he's mad at Loki. You remember when, and also Lady Sif's like, I hate you, and then later on like, you know what, I like Loki.
We need you.
And I'm like, what is it with you guys? Like, you're just spontaneously saying you don't like or do like someone, and you want to kill them. No, but I don't want to kill. Like
the Asgardians are very fickle creatures.
No kidding. Because especially like, I hate to say it, but the Thor moment when Sif is like, he's evil, and then Thor looks straight at Loki and goes, you're gonna die, and then Loki panic throws the thing down. I was like, that was like a Will Smith moment, man. Like he's like, we're cool, and then his wife was like, no, you're not. And he's like, you're right, no, we're not.
Get your wife's name out of my mouth, out of your mouth.
Get Magni and his mouth name out your mouth.
Oh man! Yeah. Oh, so one little thing that I really enjoyed was the little ear prompts that happen in Asgard where you can like listen, you can eavesdrop.
Yeah,
like beyond the doors, and then the one that's like super tongue in cheek where you're like listening to Heimdall and Odin, and they both have like foresight, and they can tell exactly what you're doing, and you keep going back, and they keep fussing at you. There's also a lot of the dialogue with Skilder, the mid guardian that is like a refugee to Asgard.
Yeah.
The whole thing with the coin from Kratos, you know what I'm talking about in post game. So when at the beginning of the game, when Odin tries to pay for the damage to the roof to Kratos' house, and then Kratos like chucks the coin, and then Mimir's like, keep the change. So in the post game, you go to the Lake of Nine, and Skildir is like up against a rock in one of the outposts in the Lake of Nine, and he's trying to dig the coin that Kratos threw out of the rock because it like embedded, because he's a god, and he like threw something and it went a bajillion miles an hour and embedded itself like straight in the stone.
Nice.
And so Skilder is trying to pull the Asgardian gold out of the rock, and he has like 10 or 12 different dialogue lines that you have to leave the area and go back completely to listen to. Like it just keeps going, because he's like the comic relief almost at this point, or one of them.
He was a weird character. I remember like why are we so close to this guy? He's just some random dude. Like
they just decided to make it like a talking point between him and Atreus when Atreus started scaling the wall.
Yeah,
but he comes back, which is cool. Like,
I liked him. You know,
almost no.
He represented the normal people.
Correct,
and that was that made a good character foil for you to play against.
I appreciated that just about any person they gave a speaking line to had more than one. Like they were persistent throughout the world, and they just weren't like another like faceless being.
Oh my gosh, man. There's so many things I want to talk about, and it's like I feel like I'm jumping all over the place. Like Sindri's performance. We talked a little bit about how he didn't forgive you, but like the intense red eye, like the way his eyes looked.
Oh yeah, he got dark.
It got really heavy and dark in a way, and it didn't resolve, and it almost is still bothering me. Like, I'm like, I need to know that Sindri's okay, and they're not like giving me that. Yeah, and that sucks.
Well, he did kill Odin, technically.
Yeah, but just I kind of was expecting at the funeral for him to finally be like, all right, I'm at peace. But he wasn't. He was pissed.
Nope. He's the new big bad.
And for him to get to kill Odin was crazy and cool.
Was not expecting that either. That was another big twist for me.
Yeah.
Last thing that's on our list that I think we should talk about: sound design and music. Give me some thoughts.
I mean, you're the music guy. I mean, I did watch today like a composer do like a live listen through the score, and like listening to the music of the game without watching the game. Like my problem with a lot of times scores is I don't appreciate them as much while playing, because
correct.
Everything else, it's a package piece at that point. It's all the art has become one thing and it's all amazing, but like. The music on its own, it really is incredible. It is such a good soundtrack and score.
Yeah, shout out Bear McCreary. Yeah. And I don't think like he necessarily like one-upped himself from the first game, but like the first game was just so good, and he used a lot of the same themes, a lot of the same scores, and kind of just tweaked it. And then, but there was a fair amount of new music, which I thought was really cool to kind of suit all the realms. And
especially like when we went to Jotunheim and different places like that, the music changed.
Places that you didn't get to explore before. Yeah, thought that was really good. And then from a sound design perspective, there were like maybe a couple of things that I was like, okay, that sounds a little cheap, but I'm blaming it on my headphones that I have, because that when I first started the game, I was playing it with they're decent. They're Steel-Series, like decently priced headphone thing, but like I wasn't listening on like a hi-fi like surround sound system for sure. But yeah, there's like a really assuring like thunk whenever you like call the axe back, and it like times in with the haptics of the controller. Every like chop and kick and punch and everything just feels incredible. The voice capture along with the mocap from all the actors, I mean, no complaints there. Really just top-notch work.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, this is, to me, if I were to rank it or give it a rating, I probably would. It's tough. It's between a 9 and a 10. I think it's if you are not being overly technical and you're just considering, is this one of the, like, it's not, a 10 doesn't have to be perfect. I think it earns that 10 spot. I think no game is perfect, right?
Correct.
I do think my biggest complaints are the inconsistency in the beats and the stories and the moments that just like, what? Why would the character in that moment? But it was always subtle, and it never really affected the main storyline. So it's still, the story as it sits is a great story. There are just small moments. Like another one I just thought of was when you Thrud and you are looking for a mask piece, and like you free the wolf because the mask straight up tells you it's there. And then the wolf leaves and the mask is like, never mind, it's not here. And Thrud's mad at you. And I'm like, why are you mad at me for? You were here too. You saw the mask said go here.
Yeah, what ended up happening? Was it on Garm, or did my theory is that Heimdall stole it?
No. Maybe.
Because he was there. He was there with you.
They don't explain that. So there's like two things right there. One, they don't explain why the mask was glowing at all in that moment. Like, at all.
Well, they established that if the mask is glowing, then it's close to another piece. That's the only explanation. Yeah,
but that doesn't make sense because Loki realized he misinterpreted it. He's like, oh, it's not here. It's somewhere else instead. And like, I don't know. It's just very, like, it was never in Helheim, basically. So like.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't understand why it glowed. And then Thrud was mad at you. And I'm like, what are you mad at me for? Like, it just, that story beat didn't make any sense. And I don't know, it's the game has lots of little things, and that's where am I nitpicking too much? Probably. It's a 10 game. It is a 10. I think I'm gonna go back, even all the issues I have, when you compare it to other game, there's very few game experiences like it. It is wholly unique. And
I think it's easy to find the things you want to nitpick about because there are so few of them and they stick out like a sore thumb when they are bad. And
it certainly wouldn't be fair of me to give it a 10, but not Elden Ring, or an Elden Ring a 10, but not God of War, when Elden Ring, I also think, is full of issues, but is a completely unique and amazing experience. So I think we've had a few amazing games this year. I've actually really liked 2022. I think 2023 is going to be even crazier. I cannot wait.
Man, yeah. I'm right there with you. I definitely a 10 out of 10. This is 100% in my top 10 games of all time. I will sit with it some more, maybe come back in a few months and kind of decide exactly where that is. I'm thinking it's above the first one, above 2018. Just because it's more of what 2018 was. And while, the story is different, it drags on a little bit more. It's longer. I don't think it necessarily drags, but it's a different way to tell the story. It was more video gamey, but is that a good or a bad thing? Or is it better or worse than the first one? Or 2018?
That's just perspective of what you like.
Yet to be determined, but I had a whole lot of fun with this game. I am still having fun with it. I still plan to play quite a few more hours of it. I might try to complete it.
I don't put this many hours into a game that I didn't love. So I have just too many games out there to play. And I agree.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that is about it. Unless you have anything else you wanted to share talk about before we log off this episode.
No, just bravo, Sony Santa Monica, PlayStation, Cory Barlog, Eric Williams. Just incredible job.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see, what is Sony Santa Monica doing next?
Are they going to make a not God of War game? Are they making Castlevania next?
We'll see. I mean, in theory, they've already started, and they've probably had a plan already lined up. So I guess we'll see. I wonder if it'll even be the same systems, but what an incredible studio and a great game. All right. Well, that's it from us for our spoiler review of God of War Ragnarok. this was not the normal episode, but thanks for joining in. We're going to be back next week. And please write us in. We need some more questions from people. We like doing the listener questions at dadcasualpodcast@gmail.com. Leave us a review, give us your feedback, and follow us on all social media platforms. And from us at Dad Casual,
later.